This was a divisive year for video game news. But far and away, the most important news was BioWare announcing that Anthem won't have romanceable NPCs. It's like, what's even the point of video games if I'm not using them to supplement my need for intimacy with humans? But as it turns out, 2018 was a pretty good year for relationships too. A fact I'm proving by coercing all of my coworkers into joining this video with me.
One of my favorite relationships in games this year was Kratos and Atreus in God of War. They sort of had this Hank and Bobby Hill dynamic going on that's super relatable for anybody who's ever had a father figure who maybe you feel is, gruffer and more experienced and tougher and more world weary than you'll ever be. It's not Atreus learning to be his father, it's Atreus learning to be better than his father, and it's about Kratos as his dad looking at his son and the things that his son can do and is good at and saying, okay, no, this is my son doesn't need to be me, and maybe my son shouldn't be me.
You will be better.
Parenting isn't just a one-sided relationship. Both people in there have some sense of agency, and I don't personally know that fatherhood is complicated, but I do know that being a son is complicated, and this game gets that pretty right.
I'm talking about a relationship that has always been very important to me, which is the relationship between a trainer and their Pokemon. In Pokemon Let's Go, you play as a trainer, which we've all done many, many times over the last 20 years, and you're accompanied by a partner Pokemon, which again, we've always had one. But for the first time in any Pokemon game, your partner is actually following you around to the point where it does everything for you. They can even fly for you, they can surf for you, they can move boulders for you. They really can do pretty much anything you need them to do. And it's really just because they're your friend. Surely there are reasons they could fly beyond the power of friendship, but that is how strong friendship is to the core of this game. They're not just collectibles or battle objects. Pokemon have always been your friend, but in Pokemon Let's Go, they finally feel like it.
Donut County's main relationship was kind of a tense one because BK was responsible for destroying Mira's neighborhood. But that's what makes it so important. Mira struggles to get BK, and by extension the player, to understand how his selfishness destroyed people's lives. She doesn't let him off the hook, and although it takes him a while, he eventually understands the ramifications of his actions. If you've never been advised about something regrettable you've said, you're either perfect, or you don't have friends who care enough about you to hold you accountable for your bullshit. But we all need to practice being faced with our flaws. Donut County gave us a great model of a friendship that has room for compassionate criticism and empathy.
Instead of talking about the actual relationship that Florence the game is about, I'm going to talk about the relationship between Florence and her mom, one that spans from before the romantic relationship even starts and, well, spoilers, continues beyond. Very early on in the game, when we're getting a feel of how humdrum and boring Florence's life is, there's a mini-game about a call with her mother, where you pick between two dialogue options. It doesn't really matter which dialogue option you pick, as they're both pretty standard and limited and don't really say much. The instinct is to just speed past it to get to the real story, which kind of parallels Florence going on autopilot in regards to her own relationship with her mother. Even when Florence is happy in her relationship, this continues. After the breakup though, she turns to her mother, and it's not the same sort of tap-tap mechanic. The end chapters show glimpses of them together, and the final sequence starts with Florence standing with her mom. Returning to and building up their relationship isn't the only factor to Florence's end happiness, but it is an important one.
I played Vincent.
And I played Leo
in A Way Out, which is a split-screen co-op game where the perspective shifts depending on whose story is kind of taking the forefront.
I think the thing that I took away from the game most was how much it replicates actually us becoming friends playing it together.
It did! So throughout the whole game, Vincent and Leo, they are escaping from prison, each with their own motivations, and trying to evade the law in fun ways, like stealing clothes, and
we played Connect 4.
Playing baseball.
We had a makeover sequence.
I played basketball with your son.
We destroyed a cop car.
We broke out of prison.
We killed some people.
And they have a lot of really great conversations, like relationship advice conversations that are devoid of macho posturing.
Fucking missing, man. Yeah, I hear you.
It felt like we were building a real, genuine friendship in the game as well as in our lives.
And nothing about the game changed that.
Nothing about the game ruined that at all.
Whoa, girl, easy now.
Arthur Morgan interacts with a lot of people in Red Dead Redemption 2, but there is no relationship in the game that's more meaningful than the one between Arthur and his horse. I treated my horse with as much care as I would another human being. Nay, more care. I brushed its coat so it glistened in the midday sun. I regularly patted it to show my appreciation for a strenuous ride. I fed it a steady diet of oatcakes and hay, with the occasional sugar cube as a treat. I love sweet treats, and I decided to name most of my steeds after them. Cookie and Salted Caramel for 2 brownish horses, the beautiful white Arabian horse, Marshmallow. Here's how much I cared about my virtual horses in Red Dead Redemption 2. When I tamed my first horse in the wild and made it my own by moving my saddle to it, I realized that poor old Cookie was left there, standing in the cold. At the time, I didn't know that there was a command available in the game to have horses follow you, or that if you lassoed them, they would stay lassoed and you didn't have to hold the L2 button down the whole time. I lassoed Cookie, and I held that L2 button the entire way for the ride back to the stable, because I couldn't bear to lose my Cookie.
Celeste's best relationship comes from Madeline and her own personified self-doubt, also known as Badeline. Media has been doing a better job of dealing with mental illness in the past few years, but this is the first time I've seen a video game that actually has a shadow version of yourself that isn't purely antagonistic. In Ocarina of Time's Water Temple, you aren't asked to sit down and have a conversation with Link's dark self, you're just asked to destroy him. The truth about all mental illness, anxiety, depression, what have you, is that when you try to destroy it, it just makes you feel worse about yourself. In Celeste, Madeline takes the time to understand her inner demons, her worries, her anxieties, all of the anger and nihilism that comes with difficult moments in your life, and she chooses to accept them instead of avoiding them outright, or killing them. In the end, she's stronger for it. Literally, she can double dash. Sure, this doesn't cure her, and it doesn't make the path ahead any less filled with spikes, but Celeste shows that it's much easier to face your obstacles in life when you're not fighting yourself at the same time.
Wow, it seems like the real treasure.
Your Pokemon will always love you.
Florence opens up to her mom.
Fatherhood is complicated.
Because I couldn't bear to lose my Cookie.
Was the friendships we made along the way. How did that feel to everybody?
Back tears.